Dear listeners, thank you for your incredible support in helping our channel grow. We're aiming for 1,000 subscribers, so please support us by subscribing and helping us reach this milestone. Now let's start the story. Flashback. Ben, at the hospital. Tatiana was busy on the phone with the wedding planner. You know how it is when women get to talking on the phone, and I decided if I was going to be Jack and Masha's best man, I needed to see if I could stand. I flipped my feet over the side of the bed, planted them both firmly on the floor, pressed down, and oh my God. Flashback. Mira, Ira, Safia, and Naomi, in Israel. After repeatedly expressing our frustration using the word but, the so-called braying sisters finally quieted down. However, Safia still refused to push the food cart, which was loaded with the once massive Stay Puft-like man's meal, toward his residence. He politely requested, "I've finished my kebab. Might I have another?" Safia responded sharply, "No. You may not because you've already had enough." Naomi shot her sister a disapproving look, handed the large man another kebab, and said, "Of course, sir. You may have as many as you like." He licked his fingers and mused, "I do enjoy this mode of food delivery. Perhaps I should invest in something similar, or even add a kebab cart to my limousine." Safia was about to protest again, but I quickly intervened, grabbing her arm and saying firmly, "Enough of this. If you continue making such a fuss, you'll be the one doing the work." I placed her hands on the cart, but she immediately pulled them away, stubbornly refusing, "I will not push this cart." I giggled at the ensuing performance completed by Ira. We were both fatigued by the constant braying. Mira attempted to force Safia to push the cart of food. Safia refused, so I extracted my gun of stun, placed it behind her, and activated the button. Sparks flew from it with resounding snaps. Safia turned in preparation of retaliation. I simply smiled and threatened, "Perform the role of a shit or prepare your butt for an electric assault." Safia complied while Mira and I partook of a well-deserved rest. I do not understand why the twins are being so mean to me. Can't they see how terrible Naomi's master is? Instead, they seem to have taken the side of my sister and him. He is a gross old fat man, and I hate the idea that we are going to his house. But I do not dislike his house as much as I hate the fact that I am being forced to push his fat, but like a butt of burden. The road started slightly downhill, and I got an idea. Pushing my master and serving him kebabs was fun. It was good to see him enjoying himself after the terrible ordeal he had been through. I could not believe my sister talked the two twin girls into turning my master into shit, forcing him to pull the cart, and then torturing him for the address to his house. I am not sure I can ever forgive her. The worst was when they left him in the street, and the terrible men did unspeakable things to him. The girls were obviously deceived by Safia's lies, but I am thankful they brought her to me since now we can finally get her off the street and back on her medicine. The cart got easier to push because it started down a small hill, then Safia pushed like crazy. The kebab cart accelerated at a tremendous rate. I held on to it, tried to stop it however I couldn't. Safia had acted like an absolute menace. The terrain sloped downward, and she threw all her weight into the food cart, causing it to accelerate rapidly. Her sister Naomi tried to stop it but failed, getting swept along instead. Safia burst into laughter, but Ira quickly ran up and used a stun device on her, rendering her unconscious. I chased after the runaway food cart, but it moved much faster than I could. My sister Marinka, in a reckless attempt, tried to grab hold of it, but had no chance against its speed. I hoisted the unconscious Safia onto my shoulder and sprinted after them. As I ran, I realized how Safia had tricked us both, and I was determined to make sure she faced the consequences of her actions. Meanwhile, my poor master was being tossed around inside the speeding cart. Even as I held on to it, the force dragged me across the ground, scraping my knees. Eventually, the road evened out, and the cart slowed. To my surprise, my master simply laughed and said, "That was fun. I should thank your sister for the thrilling ride." The twins caught up, one of them carrying Safia. I asked what happened to her. One of them responded, "I used the stun device on her." The other added, "Which knocked her out." I woke up in shock. What the hell? I was tied to the food cart. I tried to speak, but someone had covered my mouth with tape. Mira stood over me and explained, "Safia, you caused trouble and even hurt your sister. Now, it's only fair that you experience what you put others through." Ira added, "Yes, you're in charge of pulling the cart now. And if you mess this up, I still have the stun device ready." Mira finished, "And we won't hesitate to use it." The man I had tormented smirked and said, "Oh good, now she knows how I felt. Go on then, pull the cart." Tears rolled down my face as I began dragging it forward. Things only got worse when children gathered to mock me. One of them even threw a stone, but Mira caught it and hurled it back at him. I would have laughed when it hit him, but the tape over my mouth made that impossible. Would this humiliation ever end? Finally, I heard, you can stop here, this is my house. While Safia struggled with her punishment, I spoke with Naomi, who explained Safia's condition. We arrived at the man's home, and he ordered her to stop. I turned to Ira and said, make sure she doesn't run off. Naomi has told me she needs some help. Ira kept her restrained while Naomi and I helped the man out of the cart. After some effort, he got to his feet and said, that was an enjoyable ride. Thank you for your help. Now, would you all join me inside? We stepped into his home, and I was stunned. It looked like a palace. No wonder Naomi had fallen in love with this place after struggling for so long. A moment later, Ira returned and reported, Safia has been secured in a spare room. The behemoth man ordered, Naomi, please call the doctor to tend to our wounds. Naomi left and I asked, sir, might you have a computer which we could use? He answered, of course, you may use Naomi's. We followed him to a very nice business office where he pointed to a large desk and stated, that's Naomi's desk with her computer on it. I will send her in with the required password. Ira questioned, just what role does Naomi serve for you? The behemoth man positively gushed, oh my, I guess you don't know. She does everything for me from managing my many businesses to cooking for me. I really couldn't live without her. Ira gave me a questioning look. The behemoth man left the room, and I informed Ira of the factoids Naomi presented me. Naomi came in and apologized. Sorry, girls, but I had to get the doctor to look at Safia and my master and then drew a bath for him. He really can't do anything for himself. She logged us into her computer. We safely connected to our network and read Masha's irate email to us. Ira smiled and stated, I perceive we can develop an appropriate response to this defecation of bull. Flashback, Masha, at the apartment. Jack and I had a wonderful afternoon, and I guess I wore him out because he was now sleeping. The computer dinged, which announced an incoming email. I slowly and carefully extricated myself from Jack's limbs, slipped on a robe, and went to the computer. I checked and finally received a reply from the twins. I opened it and loudly swore, T. Jack woke up and questioned, Masha, what's wrong? I smiled at him and stated, sorry, my Jack, it's just problems at work. Go back to sleep. He questioned, will you be coming back to bed soon? I stated, yes, my love, but first I need to deal with this and then make us some dinner. I was incensed. Never before had the twins dared to address anyone in this manner. Their email said, Masha, your previous correspondence with us was totally screwed up, and we question how much of a shit you are. Yes, we did terminate the Mossad headquarters, which we perceive was totally justified, because they freely distributed the attached movie on the internet. However, because of the aforementioned movie, our mission is now not complete, and we will not exfiltrate Israel until we have completed our new primary mission, which is to teach the Mossad many more grave lessons. If you do not like this, you can shove it up your butt, sideways until it rips you a new a-hole, and then further kiss our butts. We are going to kick more Mossad because that is what we do. We kick butt. Do not bother to send your minions here to forcefully remove us from Israel unless you want us to kick their butts too. So stop being a shit, and we do not mean donkey, and support us. Otherwise we will kick your butt when we do decide to exfiltrate Israel. M&I. T. Where and when did those two learn to swear? I opened the video discovering it was of Irina. She was nude and tied to a table while the Mossad men paraded around and threatened her. They were also in the nude. She displayed some degree of fear which was uncharacteristic for her. I did a quick internet search and wasn't surprised when I found the video had already been uploaded to many pornographic sites. No wonder Irina and Miranda were upset. However, I was still certain this didn't justify the destruction they had already heaped upon the Mossad. I sent a message to the relief team instructing them to return because I wasn't going to have them directly confront the twins, because the twins would probably fulfill their threat and kick their butts. I sent a less angry email to the twins and told them I still didn't feel they were justified in what they did and planned to continue to do. I also threatened if they didn't return immediately, then we would not provide further assistance to them. Flashback, Tatiana, at the hospital. I was on the telephone with the best wedding planner in Moscow informing her of what Ben wanted. She questioned the anticipated expense and I replied, I was told that expense was not a concern. She began to describe some plans. Then I heard a huge noise behind me. I turned around and Ben wasn't in his bed. I stated, I am sorry I have to go. My patient is missing. I hung up the phone, ran over to the bed, and heard moaning from the other side. I ran around and saw Ben unconscious on the floor. I pressed the call button multiple times. Finally, some aides came into the room and I instructed, we need to carefully move him back into the bed. He was still unconscious, so I made a decision. Flashback, Glenn and Jens. I was still in shock. Jennifer, my tomboy Jennifer, won the lead role in Swan Lake. Jennifer was upset and most of the other girls were adulating her. I excused myself. Jennifer, I need to go outside for a few minutes, then I will be right back, and we can go home. Jennifer frowned. Yes, Daddy. And I am ready to take my punishment for what I said to Mother. I went outside, pulled out my cell phone, and called Evelyn. After way too many rings, she answered with a slurred voice. Glenn, what the hell do you want? Shit, she was 3 sheets to the wind again. I said, you will never guess what Jennifer did today. Evelyn screeched into the phone. I don't give a shit about what that ungrateful little bitch did today. I smiled as I dropped the bombshell. Okay, if you don't want to know, that's just fine, but she has the part of Odette in Swan Lake. I hung up the damn phone and thought, that will teach you, bitch. My phone instantly rang again, but it was Evelyn and I ignored it. I have better things to do than to talk to a drunk. I shook my head. How did I ever get into the mess I was in? I walked back into the ballet school and was practically accosted by Ellen, the woman I paid to drive Jennifer from school to the ballet lessons. She stated, Glenn, I'm sorry, I'm busy and won't be able to take Jennifer to ballet lessons anymore. I thought, when it rains it pours. How the hell was Jennifer going to get to ballet? I glared at her, thought for a moment, and then stated, that's fine. However, I do expect a refund for the rest of the month. I watched her carefully as she contemplated, then answered, well, I guess I can drive her for the rest of the month. Yeah, I figured it was something other than being busy. Jennifer ran up and demanded, Daddy, will you please get me out of here? I teased, what's wrong, princess? I thought you'd love all the praise the other girls are giving you. She stamped her foot and complained, oh, I hated that. I complained, Daddy, you know I hate being called a princess. And if these other girls had half a brain, I would love the praise, but all they want is to figure out how I danced so well today. Daddy smiled at me and stated, well, Jennifer, that's a question for which I would like to hear an answer. I looked at the floor and stated, I had a verbal fight with Tammy, Ellen's daughter. She insulted me and told me I couldn't dance. So I decided to show her. Now I understood why Ellen suddenly couldn't take Jennifer to ballet practice. Hell, why didn't we have a boy? It would have been much easier. I reminded, Jennifer, you do know what's waiting for you at home, don't you? Jennifer continued to look down, then kicked at something mythical on the floor and admitted, yes, Daddy. I know I messed up and I need to take my punishment. Then she looked up, smiled, and added, but if Mother hurts me, then perhaps I couldn't dance and someone else would have to take my place. I said, well, come on, let's get out of here. I humored Jennifer and let her listen to her favorite station on the way home. I couldn't believe they called that shit music. We pulled into the garage and had a hell of a surprise. Flashback, Todd, on the island. I noticed the flow had stopped to the 4-tube into my arm, so I figured it was time to change the coconut. Whoever set this up for me was kind enough to leave some extra coconuts. Hell, if I felt this good from 1 coconut, I was sure I would feel even better from 2. I drew my survival knife, poked a hole into the coconut similar to the one now hooked up to the 4, switched the tubing, and saw a big air bubble in the 4. I quickly disconnected the tube from the catheter in my arm, bled out the bubble, then reconnected it, and was satisfied with the flow. The whole time I felt like I was being watched, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't see anyone. I packed all the extra coconuts in my survival pack, even though there were many coconut palms on the island. My next step was to explore, since I didn't know how long I was going to be on this godforsaken island. I hadn't gone far when I walked into a little clearing and was surprised at what I saw. Flashback, Alexei at school. I couldn't solve what should have been an easy, for me, deductive reasoning problem because my mind was clouded due to the poor nutrition provided by my lunch. I tried and struggled as hard as I could, but the solution evaded me. Father came in and said, son, let me help you. Roll up your sleeve. I obeyed. Then he took out an alcohol swab and a syringe which he used to inject me. He then pulled out a stopwatch and clicked the start button. 15 minutes later, I could easily see the solution, solved the puzzle, and smiled at my father and questioned, Father, what sort of injection did you give me? He smiled at me and stated, Alexei, it was just a vitamin injection. Now, we should give you some more deductive reasoning puzzles. However, I could tell he lied to me. It was not a vitamin. Once again, I mentally questioned if I was just one of their laboratory experiments. I asked, Father, might I work on the cryptex? He laughed. No, son, the cryptex is an extracurricular activity. Now here's a new deductive reasoning problem you haven't seen before. Use all your mental facilities to solve it, and when you are finished, we will go home. I was excited at being allowed to get home, solve the cryptex, and obtain the surprise inside. I looked at the deductive reasoning problem. It was a large scrambled puzzle. Then the solution was clear. I reached over, moved all the pieces into place, and Father remarked, Son, that was remarkable. Tell me how you solved it so quickly? I answered, I'm not sure. It was as if I could see all the pieces fitting together in my mind. Now might we go home so I can work on the cryptex? He laughed. Yes, son, let's go home. It is still your birthday, so would you tell me what you like for dinner? I answered, Father, you and Mother know best what I should eat for dinner. He teased me. Are you sure you wouldn't like a repeat of lunch? I stated, yes, father, I'm sure I don't want a repeat of lunch. I would like for my mind to be sharp while I work on the cryptex. Mother came in and stated, well, tonight we will have fish. I smiled, goody brain food. We walked to our car together, but in silence. I thought of the cryptex and tried to visualize the solution like I had done with the deductive reasoning problem. Flashback, Ben, at the hospital. I woke up and what the hell? I'd been restrained to the bed. I thrashed around, yanked against the restraints, and yelled, you sons of a bitches better let me go immediately. A nude Tatiana walked out of the bathroom, smiled, and calmly stated, it was about time you woke up. I was thinking of starting without you. I yanked against the restraints and demanded, Tatiana, let me go immediately. She laughed. Ben, you broke a promise to me, and because of that you now have to pay. She slinked toward me with an evil smile on her face while I complained, what the hell do you mean? She showed me what she meant with her mouth and whole body, and I decided if this was what punishment was from her, it wasn't bad at all. When we were finished, she jumped out of bed and stated, Ben, if you ever break a promise to me again, it will be the last time we ever enjoy each other. I smiled and said, I understand. Now how about releasing the restraints? She laughed. Oh no, I'm not done with you yet. Let me get dressed because you've had the carrot. Now you're going to get the stick. She slinked into the bathroom, and I wondered what the hell she meant. Flashback, Ira, Mira, and Naomi, in Israel. After our email to Masha, I sat back and admired my katana and decided that even though I lost a small portion of my sister to Ben Blaine, it was almost worth the cost to possess this wonderful sword. My sister Mira continued on the computer, and I questioned, Marinko, what computer processes are you performing? She looked at me and responded, because Naomi logged us in with her personal password, I have access to all the files she has created on the hard drive. That piqued my interest, so I arose, went behind her, and observed. Marinko pulled up a document and stated, look, the behemoth man was not telling falsehoods. Naomi does manage all of his businesses. I remarked, it looks as if he has many substantial businesses. I walked into the room and heard the twins as they discussed my master's businesses. I purposely logged them in as Naomi because I knew they would examine the files. I wanted them to have no doubt as to the truth of what I told them. They both blushed, and I stated, do not worry. I wanted you to see the files so you would know that I and my master told you both the truth. One of the twins stated, thank you. After Safia's deception, we were not sure whom to believe. I questioned, I am sorry too because I have not even asked your names. The one sitting at the computer said, I am Miranda, however you may call me Mira. The one standing stated, I am Irina, and wish to be called Ira. I smiled. So you two are reverse asymmetric twins. They both smiled and Ira started, you are most observant and correct. I am right-handed. Mira finished, and I am left-handed. I said, well, I want to thank you for returning my sister to me. The doctor is here and is examining her. Would you like to observe? They simultaneously replied, thank you, yes. We proceeded upstairs. I was excited to have a chance to observe them because approximately 25% of twins were reverse asymmetric twins. Plus, I had a great interest in discovering where they developed their very peculiar and distinctive method of speaking. We entered the room where Safia was restrained. The doctor turned and said, good, you're here. I wanted you to observe me because I do not like to remain alone with female patients. He began to examine her while Safia vociferously complained, help me, he's going to kill me. Present, Jack, in the tunnels. Screw me, Todd was right. He had shared with me earlier, when we worked on the generator problem, how we had way too much infighting between us over too many stupid things. I personally think it's because we have too many women involved, but would never tell anyone, especially Masha. Now I'm right in the middle of some asinine argument between Jens and Maria about whether Glenn could have helped his wife Evelyn escape from the mental hospital. Now I sure as hell don't like Glenn, but from all I know that's the last thing he'd do. I use my command voice in order. There is no I in team, but there are 3 U's in shut up. Present, Jens, in the tunnels. Did Jack just tell us to shut up? I glare at him and counter, who's the boss around here? Jack smiles evilly and reminds me, if my memory serves me right, you made me the boss. Now that I have your attention, we need to deal with a huge problem. I sarcastically answer, the only problem I can see is someone who is too big for his britches. Jack yells, you don't see the huge problem because you're a part of it. Now shut up and listen for once, or I will kick your butt from here till next Sunday. I'm pretty sure I could take Jack, but he's fired up, so I decided to not challenge him for now. He continues, listen, we are getting our butt kicked because of these petty little disagreements between us which turn into what you all perceive to be major problems. They cause us to lose focus. Now you decide what the hell you want us to focus on. Finding Ben, finding Megan, or scratching our butts. Present, Maria, in the tunnels. while the old fart is more pissed than I've ever seen. It's funny when he threatens to kick my princess bosses, but because I'm not sure he could do that. For once my princess boss is smart and doesn't accept the challenge and keeps her mouth shut. He then reiterates what Todd had said earlier, so I comment, Jens, this is twice we've heard from different people that we need to focus on one problem. I personally think they are both right. Jens answers, Jack, it sounds like you've been talking to Todd and I agree with both of you. Our primary mission has always been to find Ben, but we've become distracted, and I'm to blame for that. I interrupt, Jens, the blame isn't totally yours. I also got distracted in Texas when I went looking for Linus and his team. Do you know what our problem is? Jens looks at me and admits, yeah, we get too emotional about things, and then we lose our objectivity. She turns to Jack and says, okay, I made you the leader, so lead. Jack replies, present, Jack, in the tunnels. While that went better than I thought it would, however, I do have one big question that needs answered. I look at Jens and ask, Jens, what about Glenn? Jens answers, Jack, I put you in command and I want you in command. However, I'm not sure the Marines will follow you over Daddy. Besides, Todd is worried that Daddy might be a Manchurian candidate and might pose a threat to me. Maria adds, plus, we need to vet each individual Marine who's here. Hammer already discovered one man that wasn't a Marine. This is surprising as hell to me, so I ask, okay, both these so-called facts are new news to me, so I need a sit rep. Jens and Maria give me a hell of a sit rep. When they are done, even I question Glenn, and I know I'm going to be looking over my shoulder at each Marine who's here. Maria finishes with a suggestion, Jens, I think we need to tell Glenn that you put Jack in charge, and he needs to follow Jack's orders. I laugh. Do you really expect the old man to take orders from a sergeant? Jen thinks for a few moments, then says, Maria, I like the hell out of that idea, and Daddy can either follow Jack's orders, or he can leave. There's a knock on the door. Maria points her weapon at the door, and we hear Matt and Jim reporting for duty. I look at Maria, and she explains, Jack, it's my duty to protect Jens, and since we don't know about the other Marines, she's not going anywhere without body armor, a helmet, and armed escort. She continues, open the door slowly, and come in, guys. I comment on her action. Now that's the kind of thinking we need around here. Maria, good job taking the initiative to protect Jens. The guys come in, and Maria begins to give them a sit rep while I talk to Jens. Okay, Jens, your first duty is to talk to Glenn and make sure he understands who is in charge. She salutes and replies, damn Skippy SIR. I began to complain about the SIR when there's another knock on the door and the doorknob begins to turn. Maria, Matt and Jim cover the door with their weapons and Maria orders, halt and be recognized. Present, Masha, in the tunnels. I locate the room where Jennifer and Jack are located. I knock on the door, begin to open it, and hear Maria yell, halt and be recognized. I quickly step to the side of the door, shield Ivan with my body, and reply, it is Masha and Ivan Reynolds. Is my husband here? Maria answers, enter the room slowly so we can see your hands. I stay at the side of the door, open the door wide, then slowly step into the doorway where they can see me and Ivan. Ivan squirms and says, Gappa. I let him go. He runs to Jack while I enter the room and question, what is the meaning of the increased security? Jennifer explains, Hammer discovered one of the Marines wasn't really a Marine. So until Daddy vets everyone, everyone is a threat. Maria adds, and my job is Jens security. I think for a moment and comment, yes, it is wise to assume that some of the men here are not Marines and might pose a security risk. I do have some information that, if it is accurate, might add to the security risks. That is why I'm here. Jack smiles at me and says, okay, soccer mom, what do you have? I smile back and begin. Megan is no longer in Venezuela, and we wonder if perhaps she might have come back here and been instrumental in the release of Jennifer's mother, Evelyn, from the mental hospital. Jennifer questions, how did you know about Evelyn? And who is this we? Jack saves me by saying, Jens, just as Masha has never asked me for information, we do not ask Masha where she gets her information. Okay, let's suppose that Megan did aid Evelyn's release. Why would she do that? I answer, that is easy. It is because Jennifer's mother knows more about Jennifer than anyone else. So, if you were planning to target someone, that information would be invaluable. They all nod their heads, and Jack continues, Masha, I've been put in command, and our primary mission is finding Ben, so we don't have the resources to expend on this. Is there any way you could help? This is a change since Jack has never directly asked me for help. I will need to clear this with my one superior, but I'm almost certain with what Megan has done to enhance the addiction potential of the product the narcotic lord was supplying, it will be approved. She is a truly dangerous woman. I answer, I believe I have access to some resources which will assist in this task. Jack delegates, good Masha, then Megan and Evelyn are your problem unless you tell us you can't help. I wonder how Jennifer's father will react to finding out my Jack is in charge. This should prove interesting, and I will need to speak with Jack before he has a confrontation with Glenn. However, there's something I want to do first, so I question, you mentioned a man had been captured who is not a Marine? What has been done with him? Jennifer answers, Todd and Linus took him to another room and are interrogating him. I smile because if Todd is interrogating him, we will get every useful piece of information from him that's possible. I request, well, if you don't mind, I would like to observe the interrogation. I might glean useful information which will aid in my assignment. Jack agrees. Masha, that would be great, but first I want a kiss. I go over to my Jack, and he delivers a kiss which makes me weak in the knees. Then he pulls away and whispers, honey, don't worry about Glenn. Your talk with me has changed my attitude, and it's Yin's assignment to tell her father that I'm in command. I whisper a reply, Jack, let me know how this goes, and if you need any help. Jack says, I need to go get some Citreps since I feel like I'm out of the loop. He leaves while I retrieve Ivan, and we depart to locate Todd, Linus, and the prisoner. Present, Todd and Linus, in the tunnels. I can see the medicinal herbs have taken effect, but while I attempt to start the questioning, there's a knock on the door. I nod to Linus, who approaches the door with his weapon and challenges, who's there? We hear, Masha and Ivan Reynolds. I would appreciate the opportunity to view the interrogation. I nod. Linus opens the door. Masha walks in. She evaluates the prisoner and says, it looks like I arrived in perfect time. I nod. We begin the questioning, and then, present, Jens, in the tunnels. I complain, Maria, I can't move with all this shit hanging on me. Maria commands, Jens, shut up. You're going to wear your body armor and helmet, and we're not taking no for an answer. I glare at her. I'd be careful who you're telling to shut up. I'm getting damn tired being told that. Remember, I can and will kick your butt. Maria smiles. I don't think you can kick all three of our butts. I look at Matt, Jim, and Maria, then I decide discretion is the better part of valor. Besides, I'm hungry, so I surrender. Well, I'm too hungry to kick the three of your butts right now, so instead, let's go get some food. We leave the room, and it's like a convoy. Matt and Jim are up front while Maria is behind me. I complain, don't you think this is going to attract too much attention? Then Sharik takes off like his butt in on fire, and I further complain. Hey, where the hell are you going? Maria states, Jens, stop complaining. If anyone has a right to complain, it's me. I question, what the hell do you have to complain about? She laughs and comments, well, unless you're the lead dog, the view never changes. I realize she's right. All I can see are the backs of Matt and Jim in front of me, so I counter, hey, I'm in the same boat as you are. Matt complains, Jens, stop looking at my butt. I'm a happily married man. Jim laughs and says, now that's the biggest oxymoron I've heard today, happily and married. Maria commands, cut out the idle chatter, you two. They sarcastically reply, yes, sir. I laugh and add, damn Skippy, sir. Maria answers, okay, princess boss, and her two trained flying monkeys. I stop, turn and face her while Jim and Matt complain, what did you just call us? I add, yeah, what did you just call me? She grins and teases, what's wrong? Don't you like it when the shoe is on the other foot? I can trade names with the like of you three all day long. Jens laughs, okay, Speedy, so can I. Maria reminds all, we need to stop this before it descends into a pissing match. Now let's hit the mess tent. We head outside toward the mess tent when, oh hell no. Present, Liz and Bernie, at the cabin. We step out of the SIF semi-trailer. I call the twins' phone again, but this time Mira answers and questions, Ms. Morgan, are you currently protected in safety? I answer with a question, Mira, what is going on at the fertility clinic? Mira responds, Ms. Morgan, why ask such a question? I answer, well, the local news station is reporting that a huge altercation occurred. In fact, they called it terror at the fertility clinic. I know it's the clinic that you are using, and I wanted to make sure all three of you are safe. Mira states, Ms. Morgan, I cannot reveal what has happened over a non-secure phone. Thank you for expressing concern over the three of us, but Rain is right. Alexei corrects in the background, Mira, that's right, is Rain. I add one more question, when will the three of you return here? Mira replies, we have a few more tasks to accomplish, then we will return. Then something terrible happens, and we lose the call. Present, Mira, in the Bentley. The phone call prematurely terminates with Ms. Morgan, while the last thing I heard was a very loud noise. Ira questions, Marinka, what has precipitated the look on your facade? I state, Irinka, I fear we might have been too focused on my problems and have wavered in our primary mission. Ira asks, sister, please elucidate for us. I explain about the call's premature termination with a loud noise. Alexei reiterates the situation. My sisters, we have the information we require. We possess the remainder of Ben Blaine's male procreation component, and any existing embryos produced from said component have been terminated. Could not the next part of the mission be placed on hold until we verify that Ms. Morgan is safe? We both state, Yes, Alexei, you are correct. I continue. Alexei, please convey us to the cabin haste of post. Alexei smiles and says, with pleasure, my sisters. Present, Masha, in the CCC tent. Once again, I wait for a computer. I just acquire safe admittance to my network when something terrible happens and I lose the connection. Present, Zarika, in the mess tent. I take the nice nurse's advice and go to the mess tent to get some food. The nice Nubian lady Mabel questions, Zarika honey, how is Yasmin? I reply, she will live and seems to be happy. Mabel continues, now Zarika, I can tell that there is more to this story than you're telling me. Come on, and let's talk while you eat. She takes me and a plate of food to the table, and then she says, okay Zarika, spill the beans. I become confused for a moment because I do not have any beans on my plate. Then I realize what she was asking, so I tell her all about Yasmin's injury and possibly not being able to have babies. Then I question, Ms. Mabel, Yasmin told me how horribly painful it is to have babies, and now well. I look down and Mabel comforts me, land's sakes child. Yes, it's the most painful thing that a woman will endure, however, when you hold that little baby in your arms, you will forget all the pain. I feel better about having children. Ms. Mabel leaves. I am finished eating and leave the tent. Then something terrible scares me, so I run towards the medical airplane. Present, Ben, on the road. The truck begins to slow, which immediately wakes me. Then Gus says, hey, you might want to see this. I stretch, yawn, open my eyes and see a hell of a fight going on between some truckers, and my guess is hijackers, and swear, the scumsuckers have changed tactics. Gus states, they sure as hell have. I open the sliding window in the back of the cab, grab my rifle, begin to crawl through, and Gus demands, what the hell are you going to do? I laugh, you just keep this truck on an even keel. I'm going to do the voodoo I do so well. Present, Samantha and Stacy, on the road. Bill comes outside and suggests, Samantha, Stacy could really use a friend right now. I head inside. See, the examination room is empty, but I hear the shower running. I knock on the bathroom door and ask, Stacy, are you okay? Damn, I hoped I could hide out in this shower, if not forever, at least for a few hours. Samantha's at the door, so I answer, well, Sam. I never get to finish because she barges into the room, throws back the shower curtain, turns off the water and declares, Stacy, I know you're hurting like hell right now, but I also know you made the right decision. If we're going to catch Ben, then you can't afford to spend weeks recuperating from a C-section. I question, what's this weak crap? I thought it was just me. Samantha smiles at me and explains, look, Stacy, you might not know it, but you're my best friend, and I'm going to help you find Ben. I question, what about your bosses at the Truth Network, especially Jennifer Donaldson? She shocks me when she says, screw Liz and double screw Jennifer Donaldson. I've been doing their dirty work on finding Ben when neither of them really did half the things for me that you have in the last few days. Liz has a hell of a research team and could have discovered the information about my scumsucker ex-husband and the most sad death squad if Liz had ordered it. So like it or not, Stacy, I'm now helping you find Ben. I begin to cry and shiver. Oh no, what's wrong with Stacy? She starts crying and shivering. I step into the shower with her towel, wrap her in it, and ask, Stacy, what's wrong? She sniffles and stutters, Sam. I haven't had a best friend since my grandmama died. I hug her in the towel and wonder, how can a rich girl like Stacy not have friends? I begin to dry her and say, Bill is ready to leave. So let's finish your shower and get moving to find Ben. That motivates Stacy, and she says, thanks, Sam. I can finish from here. Did Bill bring my new clothes? I affirm, yes, he did. They are right here. Then I add a question. Aren't these military clothes? Stacy answers, yes. We're all going to wear camouflage because that's what I wore when I was with Ben. You need to ask Bill for some clothes for yourself. I smile and agree. Let me go get them and get changed. Samantha leaves, but she doesn't fully realize how lonely I've been since grandmama died. I want to believe that she truly wants to help me find Ben, but I still worry that she is just using me to find Ben for the Truth Network. I know that Stacy doesn't really trust me. However, what I told her is the truth. I am going to help her find Ben. Yes, she is my BFF, best friend forever, but I also know what a great report it will be when I reunite the two of them. Present, Tom, Inga, and Byron. It's raining hell on the narcotic lord. We hear the 50s barking behind us, and for once it's music to my ears. Mostly because I'm not firing one of them, so they're not bruising the hell out of my shoulder. I question, okay team leader, what now? He says, we double time it to the compound. I ask if that's really a good plan. Do you think the double time is such a good idea? We already ran into one trap, and can be sure there are others. Inga adds, in this case, I feel that Tom is correct. We should not underestimate the narcotic lord. The team leader states, well, we don't have all night to get to the compound, so we have to double time. I taunt, yeah, and haste makes waste. He states, listen, As far as I'm concerned, you can stay the hell here. The rest of us are double timing. I look at Inga, and she says, Tom, we need to follow, but keeping a short distance behind them. They take off, then we begin to follow. Suddenly the 50s stop. I call Byron on the comm, but don't get an answer. Hell, we just saw something that is going to be a hell of a problem. We try shooting the shit out of it, but it has too much armor, so we decided to bug out and find a new location. Tom calls me, but I sure as hell don't have time to answer right now. I don't get an answer from Byron. Then something automatic and big starts firing from the compound. Even as far away as we are, it still hurts the hell out of my ears. I yell, what the hell is that? Inga answers, that is a 14.5 millimeters heavy machine gun, probably mounted on a ZPU, 4 anti-aircraft gun. The team leader says, you're with me. Inga replies, no sir, and as we get closer we will need to avoid it at all costs. He replies, hell yes we will. Then he calls Byron and the other snipers, but doesn't get a response. Flashback, Ben and Tatiana at the hospital. After we had a great time with our physical therapy, Tatiana went into the bathroom even though I was restrained to the bed. She explained, you benefited from the carrot, and now you will experience the stick. I didn't know what she meant, and so I patiently waited. After all, I had been punished by the worst, my dad. So what could she do to me? I waited for what seemed like forever. Then I called, Tatiana. Where are you? I received no answer. I pulled at my restraints and hoped that I could escape, but there was no way I was getting out of them. I called again, Tatiana. Hell's bells. She had somehow disappeared and left me tied to this damn bed. Ah, now I understood. This was the stick, being tied to the bed with no one to help me. I fought against the restraints without any luck, then decided what the hell. I would just go to sleep. I was almost asleep when I left Ben's bathroom through the hallway door, and now I watched him on the baby monitor I had strategically placed on the counter. It was hard not to laugh when he kept trying to escape from the restraints, because that was simply impossible. I watched until he started to go to sleep. Then I pushed the talk button on the baby monitor, put the air horn up to the microphone, and pressed the button. I giggled as Ben practically jumped off the bed. Then he swore, son of a bitch. What the hell did that? Some SOB set off an air horn in the room. Not only did it wake me up, it scared the hell out of me. I looked around the room, then I noticed it. There was a baby monitor on the counter. Now I understood more about what the stick was. I glared at the baby monitor and threatened, you might think this is funny now, but you just wait because revenge is a dish best served cold. I chuckled, then the damn air horn blew again. I decided I needed to do something about this, so I began to think about how I could kill that baby monitor. Now this was interesting. What was my Ben doing? He was looking all around in his bed like he was trying to find something. He finally twisted his head around, took his pillow in his mouth, and worked it down toward his hand. What was he doing? He finally positioned it into his hand, and he began to swing it. I in turn determined what he was attempting, so I activated the air horn again. He jumped and dropped the pillow on the floor, then demanded, you son of a bitch. I've had enough of this bullshit. Now come in here and let me loose. I pushed the monitor button, laughed and taunted, not until you promise me that you're going to stay in the bed. He swore, there's no way in hell I'm going to promise that when I'm restrained. Let's see how you like this. I watched as he tossed his underwear at the baby monitor. His aim was perfect, and I could no longer see what he was doing. However, it sounded like he was destroying the room, so I sounded the air horn several more times. Flashback, Mira, Ira, Safia, and Naomi, in Israel. We observed the doctor as he began to treat Safia, while she loudly brayed that the doctor was going to kill her. When he held up a syringe, I questioned, Doctor, which narcotic are you administering to Safia? He stated, it's an antipsychotic medicine to help with her schizophrenia. Safia again loudly brayed, Mira, he's going to kill me. I attempted to ease her concerns and questioned, which antipsychotic substance are you using? He became defensive. Unless you are a doctor, I do not have to answer to you. I did not like the answer. I signaled Ira and she withdrew her katana and declared, Doctor, that is not an appropriate response for my sister. While she is not a medical doctor, she has extensive knowledge of medicines. The doctor looked at the katana, shrugged his shoulders, and said, well, if you must know, it's Risperdal Consta. I questioned, Doctor, are you not concerned with the possible side effects such as tardive dyskinesia or even worse, neuroleptic malignant syndrome? With the injection's long-term release mechanism, there would be no possible way to counteract such dangerous side effects. And from the look of the amount of Risperdal Consta in your syringe, it is close to the maximum dose. Safia brayed, I told you, Mira, he is trying to kill me. Naomi questioned, Mira, are you sure? I turned toward Naomi and explained, with pharmaceuticals, I do not make mistakes. It is very ill-advised to give Risperdal Consta without a prior trial of oral risperidone because it continues intramuscular release for several weeks. The recommended dosage of Risperdal Consta is 12.5 to 50 milligrams, and this doctor has chosen close to the maximum 50 milligrams dose. The trial of oral risperidone allows the patient to be treated quickly if they do develop tardive dyskinesia or neuroleptic malignant syndrome. Naomi questioned, "What are tardive dyskinesia and neuroleptic malignant syndrome?" I replied, "Tardive dyskinesia is a difficult-to-treat form of dyskinesia, a disorder resulting in involuntary, repetitive body movements. In this form of dyskinesia, the involuntary movements are tardive, meaning they have a slow or belated onset. This neurological disorder frequently appears after long-term or high-dose use of antipsychotic narcotics. Neuroleptic malignant syndrome, NMS, is even worse. It is a life-threatening neurological disorder most often caused by an adverse reaction to neuroleptic or antipsychotic narcotics. NMS typically consists of muscle rigidity, fever, autonomic instability, and cognitive changes such as delirium, and is associated with elevated plasma creatine phosphokinase. The incidence of neuroleptic malignant syndrome has decreased since it was first described due to changes in prescribing habits, but NMS is still a potential danger to patients being treated with antipsychotic medication. We all glared at the doctor, and the doctor said, "Well, your knowledge of pharmaceuticals is like having a PDR, physician's desk reference, a commercially published compilation of manufacturers prescribing information package inserts on prescription narcotics, updated annually, in my hands. But I still feel this is the best course of treatment for this patient." I smiled at the doctor and related, "Thank you. I have memorized the PDR, but I unfortunately vociferously disagree with you and will not allow you to inject Safia with Risperdal Consta because the risk is too great." The doctor scoffed, "I highly doubt you have memorized the entire PDR. That's over 2,000 pages of highly technical material." Ira defended my skill but warned the physician, "Doctor, my sister does not tweak the truth. She has indeed memorized the entire PDR. In contrast, that is something of which you seem to lack detailed knowledge." He looked to Naomi and pleaded, "Naomi, who is the doctor here, and haven't I always served you and your master well?" I interjected, "Naomi, before you respond to his plea, be aware that Akam's excessive weight could possibly be due to this man's malpractice." Naomi glared at him but then questioned me, "Mira, why would you say that?" I explained, "Naomi, it is obvious Akam's weight gain is due to a severe hormonal, and I do not mean relating to Safia's terrible joke, imbalance. Such a reaction is either being caused because he is taking some medication which interferes with his normal hormonal balance, or he needs hormonal supplementation." The doctor obviously lied and sarcastically declared, "This girl does not know what she is talking about. What medical training has she had to compare with superior training I received from Johns Hopkins in the USA?" I gleefully baited the trap. "Johns Hopkins is the institution located in Boston, Massachusetts. Is that correct?" He continued his untruthful assertions. "Yes, in the fine city of Boston." I impeached his assertion. "Excuse me, but Johns Hopkins University is in Baltimore, Maryland, not in Boston, Massachusetts." I turned toward Naomi and stated, "This man is a charlatan, and I would not let him treat a dead female Saluki." The charlatan complained, "Naomi." Ira raised her katana and ordered, "Charlatan, depart haste of post." He began to remove his medicinal bag, and I interjected, "Without your medicinal bag." He started to argue, but Ira's katana sliced through the air, stopping less than a centimeter from his arm. He yanked his hand back and cursed, "Somehow, I'll get even with you too." I smirked. "Charlatan, you can take your nonsense elsewhere." Ira added, "Or shove it where the sun doesn't shine." I continued, "And then you can turn around and walk away." Ira grinned, getting into the spirit of things. "Because if you don't leave immediately, we'll send you packing the hard way." I delivered the final line. "Since you're clearly out of your league, and we don't tolerate frauds." He muttered another curse under his breath and stormed off in a hurry. Naomi turned to me, concern in her eyes. "What should I do now? He was supposed to be the best doctor in town." I chuckled. "No, he was just the most convincing fraud. If you don't mind, I'll treat Safia first, and then take care of your knees." Naomi reminded us, "What about the injuries to my master from being raped?" I had made a tactical error when I forgot Akam's injuries. I had no desire to observe or treat his injuries, however it appeared that I was up the defecation rivulet without a bladed rowing device. I quickly developed a path through this conundrum and submitted, "Naomi, because I do not wish to refabricate a friction-reducing rotary transportation instrument using the algebraic equation x squared plus y squared equals radius, i.e. reinvent the wheel. I will observe his injuries and impart to you sufficient knowledge to minister to them." With Mira ministering to everyone except myself, I stated, "I wish to check the computer again for further messages." Then I departed down the stairs. I sat at Naomi's desk, connected again to our email server, and was not surprised when we had a reply from Masha. I oculated the reply, smiled, and decided I would repair Masha's tiny wagon of red. Flashback, Masha, at the apartment. I was busy preparing dinner for us, and also watched Jack sleep. He seemed so peaceful in his sleep, and I loved watching him. I anticipated the nature of our married life, and smiled. The computer dinged, which meant I had a new email. I walked over, and it was a reply to my email. I opened it, and swore some more. It read, Masha, your support is not required. In fact, it is complexly cumbersome, so you can take your support and shove it up your butt sideways until it rips you a new a-hole. We will not depart Israel until the Mossad have been thoroughly chastised. If you attempt to force exfiltration upon us, we will bitch slap you like the female Saluki you are. We calculate that our mission will require a few weeks to a month before completion. At that time, we will confront one another, facade to facade. I leave you with a conundrum. How do you make a hormone? I was surprised because this email was individually from Irina and made me question what Miranda was doing. And what in Hades was this conundrum, she added at the end. I decided that two could play this game, so I dashed off a response that I was sure would get the twins' attention, and I even added a thread at the end. I finished dinner, placed some nice candles on the table, prepared the plates, and then awakened my Jack. He viewed the table, gave me a big hug and kiss, then even helped me with my chair. While we were eating, I was distracted thinking about the twins. Jack noticed my distraction and asked, Masha, a penny for your thoughts. I asked, Jack, I don't understand that phrase. Jack smiled and said, it just means I'd love to know what you're thinking about. I thought for a moment, then asked, Jack, do you know how to make a hormone? Jack chuckled. Of course. That joke's been around forever. Still puzzled, I asked him to explain. After he did, I realized he was right. I needed to pay closer attention to him. Wanting to show I was engaged in the conversation, I shifted in my seat, turning toward him with a curious expression. Flashback, Glenn and Jens, at home. We pulled into the garage after I picked up Jennifer from ballet. The door into the house opened. I looked at Jennifer and questioned, do you see what I see? She rubbed her eyes and asked, is that really Mother? She walked toward the car, and yes, it was Evelyn, but it was shocking to see her. She was in a nice summer dress, had her hair done, and was even wearing a string of pearls. As she approached the car, Jennifer remarked, she looks like that woman on the lame old black and white TV show you like. You know, the one that wore those horrible gingham dresses. I suggested, you mean June Cleaver from Father Knows Best? Jennifer giggled. Yes, that's the one, and if Father did really know best, he would have told June to wear something else. I had to admit to myself, Jennifer did have a point. Evelyn did have on a dress that was similar to June Cleaver's. She almost floated to the car, opened the door for me, and announced, honey, I'm glad you're home. She bent down, smiled at Jennifer, and stated, and how is my little ballerina feeling tonight? I grabbed Jennifer's hand and squeezed. I hope she understood my plea to not tease Evelyn. Well, this has to be proof that there are aliens, evil. I mean, Mother was abducted by them and replaced with this alien June frickin' Cleaver clone. I was going to say something, then Daddy squeezed my hand and I figured out he wanted to keep the peace, so I put on my best fake smile and answered, hello, Mother, I'm hungry. What's for dinner? Daddy glared at me, because Mother hadn't been known for making meals lately, but Mother wasn't fazed as she answered, I prepared a special dinner tonight with all your favorites. I wanted to ask how in the heck she did that, but I bit my tongue as Mother said, come on into the house, Glenn. I will fix you a drink while Jennifer showers and dresses for dinner. I looked at the alien which possessed my mother and snidely questioned, dress for dinner? Daddy glared at me as Mother answered, yes, dress for dinner. We can't have our little ballerina coming to dinner inappropriately dressed. I laid out clothes for you to wear on your bed. Hell's bells. I need to nip things in the bud or World War III would happen. Evelyn and Jennifer had never agreed on clothes, and if Evelyn started to lay out clothes for Jennifer again, then the shit is really going to hit the fan. I answer Evelyn, okay, honey, we will be right in. Let me talk to Jennifer a little. Evelyn practically floated into the house. I looked at Jennifer and ordered, young lady, you will mind your manners tonight and obey your mother. She looked down and answered, Daddy, what the heck is wrong with Mother now? I answered, well, I'm not sure, but it sure doesn't seem she's interested in punishing you for telling her to go screw herself, so I would be thankful as hell for that. Jennifer sarcastically answered, yes, I should be thankful for small mercies. We headed into the house, and I wondered when the shit would hit the fan. Flashback, Todd, on the island. With the problem of drinking and nourishment being taken care of for the immediate future by the Coconut 4, I decided to explore the island. I hadn't walked far when I entered a clearing and was shocked to see the obvious remnants of a concentration camp. Nothing on my briefings mentioned anything like this, so I slowly approached the camp and began to explore. I was puzzled because the camp didn't appear to be old enough to be from World War II. So what the hell did they use it for? My observations were confirmed when I found a desk calendar in one of the offices. It took a bit of deciphering, but I figured out the calendar was only 10 years old. There were records, but they were in Chinese. I wasn't completely fluent in the language, so I couldn't decipher what they were using the camp for. I continued my search. Then I entered a room which helped me to understand the purpose of the camp, but which also sickened me. It was obviously a medical room designed for experiments. There were large cages against the back wall, which I assumed one time housed captives they experimented on. Now they held what was left of the medical personnel's bodies. I could tell they died a very slow death, probably starved to death. There was even evidence that some resorted to cannibalism on those who died before them. The room was fully stocked with medical equipment needed for surgeries and autopsies, along with numerous medicine cabinets. I headed to the cabinets, opened one, but it was empty. Someone had cleaned it out, perhaps the same someone who's been assisting me. I left that building and headed to a different building with bars on the windows. The door had been destroyed by what looked like an explosive, and it was a good thing, because if it had been intact, there was no way I could open it. I walked into the building, which I immediately recognized as a prison. Yes, each side room was a cell with the doors still closed. I approached one, looked inside, and noted it was empty, as were all the others. I finally reached a large room at the far end of the building, entered it, and tried to swear, but my neck only emitted a gurgling noise. The scumsuckers. This was a sexual torture room that would have done justice to the Marquis de Sade. Hell, there were devices that I had no idea what they were used for. But the worst was the massive, expandable phallus in the center of the room. It still had the decomposed remnants of a body, male, impaled upon it. It was obvious he was placed on the device when it was small, then it was expanded and literally split him open. He died an excruciating death. I continued to explore the concentration death camp and found the supply room, which had been stripped bare, just like the medical supplies in the medical building. I walked outside, headed to another building when, damn it, not again. Flashback, Alexei at school. After a healthy dinner of fish and fresh steamed vegetables, I asked, might I work on the cryptex now? Father replied, not until you finish your homework. I attacked my homework with gusto while father and mother discussed some things and worked on their computer. This was a typical night at home for us. They soon became tired and mother advised, we are going to bed. Make sure you adhere to your sleep schedule. I walked over to them, gave them both kisses on the cheek, and replied, yes, mother and father. They left, and after a short time I began to work on accessing their computer. I wanted to determine what engrossing information they entered on their computer each night. It was password protected, and I had tried many times previously to access it without luck. I tried again tonight without luck, was about ready to submit in resignation when I noticed a piece of paper sticking out from under the computer. I pulled it out and immediately recognized the possibility of acquiring the elusive password. I entered the password, browsed the operating system, and began to survey the files. I found a folder with my name on it, opened it, and was surprised at the content. However, the nature of the file was as I expected. Flashback, Yints at home. I couldn't frickin' believe it. Evilly, I mean, mother must be crazy if she thinks I'm going to wear this crap. I heard a knock on my door and questioned, who is it? I heard, Jennifer, it's Daddy, can I come in? I was still wearing my pink camo ballet outfit, the only one I would wear, and said, yes, Daddy, you may come in. He opened the door, walked in, took one look at the clothes on the bed and stated, Jennifer, I know you hate the thought about wearing those clothes, but I'm going to ask you to not cause a scene and wear that dress tonight. I grumpily replied, why the heck should I? Daddy stated, look, Jennifer, your mother is really trying tonight, and I think you should meet her at least halfway. And if you can't do it for her, how about doing it for me? I could really use a night of peace and quiet in the house. I glared at the frickin' dress on the bed and stated, Daddy, I will wear a dress, however, I won't wear that dress. He questioned, it's not going to be one of those newfangled dresses that your mother hates? I stated, gee, Daddy, you're almost making this impossible. If I do this, what's in it for me? He gave me a sad look and grumped, Jennifer, forget the hell I asked you to do anything for me. He left the room, and I felt really bad. I took off my ballet clothes, jumped into the shower, came out, looked at the dress, grabbed a different dress from my closet, and headed downstairs. Mother beamed and said, there's my little ballerina. Come into the dining room. Dinner is already on your plate. Daddy and I walked into the dining room. Mother gave Daddy a huge amount of food, then she sat my plate in front of me. I took one look at it and complained, Mother, what the heck is this? Flashback, Tatiana, at the hospital. I still could not see anything because Ben threw his underwear on the baby monitor, and then it sounded like there was a war occurring in the room. Finally I heard, I've got you now, scumsucker. Then I heard a crunching noise and the baby monitor totally died. I quickly dashed into the room and was surprised when I saw Ben standing with the broken remnants of the baby monitor in his hands. I looked at the bed and was even more surprised as he had somehow destroyed the restraints. I yelled, "Ben, how did you escape? And I will have to pay for the baby monitor you destroyed." He swore, "Don't you ever dare to restrain me to the bed again, and you should have thought about that before you used it to prank me." He did not look good. Then he began to sway and fell to the floor. I ran over, and he was unconscious again. I pushed the call button to get some help to get Ben back into bed and wondered just how in the world Ben escaped. I decided he must have cut the restraints with something. I will need to search him for the device he used. Present, Jack, at the cabin. Son of a bitch. I was in the command and control tent when something damn big, blew up. It rattled the hell out of everything and even shook the ground. As I rush out of the tent, I spot a huge smoke cloud that looks like a mushroom. Glenn comes up beside me and asks, "What the hell was that?" I answer, "Like hell if I know." I pull my weapon around and declare, "But I'm sure as hell going to find out what it was." Then I head toward the mushroom cloud. Glenn orders, "Well, give me a sit rep after you figure out what it was." I smile and think, "Like hell I will. After Jennifer talks to you. You can give me a damn sit rep when you figure out what it was." Present, Todd, Linus, and Masha, in the tunnels. We just begin questioning the prisoner when the ground shakes. I look at Masha and sign, "That couldn't have been an earthquake." She agrees, "Yes, in this area a tremor is not likely." Linus adds, "I think it was an explosion." Masha worries, "My husband is outside. I must see if he has been wounded." Linus adds, "And I need to find Maria." I sign, "That's fine. I will start the interrogation and let you two know what I discover when you come back." They leave and I ask our prisoner the first question. I am shocked at his answer and decided I need to deliver this information to Yin's team immediately. Present, Liz and Bernie, at the cabin. I'm talking to Mira about the fertility clinic when there's a flash, a loud boom, and then a huge blast of wind that blows Bernie and me to the ground. I drop the cell phone and lose the call with Mira. Bernie says, "Liz, that was a hell of an explosion. The bomb had to be huge." I reply, "No shit, Sherlock. But what the hell was it?" Bernie points, "Well, there's the dust cloud from it. Let's go investigate." We jump up, run toward the blast area, and I can't believe what the hell I see. "Please God, don't let it be." Bernie says, "Look, that's Matt and Jim lying on top of." Present, Yints, in a world of hurt. I'm lying on Maria, being crushed by Matt and Jim, and swear, "Get the hell off me." What the hell was that? Liz runs up and I barely hear. "Yints, are you okay?" I complain, "Stop whispering and get these two overgrown monkeys off me." While I'm trying to move, Jack orders, "What the hell are you Marines standing around for? Form a perimeter and make sure no one else approaches Jennifer Donaldson." I struggle beneath Matt and Jim while Jack continues to talk, but I can't understand him, so I yell, "Stop whispering and speak the hell up." Jack orders, "Jennifer, stop moving and be patient." Matt and Jim are unconscious. He yells, "You, head to the medical plane and bring the doctors." Present, Jack, at the blast site. As near as I can figure out, something blew up and damn near killed Jennifer. It sure screwed Matt and Jim up. They're unconscious, are bleeding from the ears, and have multiple lacerations on their bodies. I sure don't want to move them until we get a doctor here to do a physical assessment. Linus runs up and questions, "What the hell happened?" I answer, "I don't know for sure yet, but there was an explosion that almost killed Jennifer." He questions, "What about Maria?" I bend down, look at the pile and say, "I think she's under Jennifer." We hear a voice. Present, Maria, under the pile. I hear Linus and yell, "Did the guys get the scumsucker?" He yells, "What scumsucker?" Yints yells, "Yeah, what scumsucker?" I struggle to move so I can breathe and say, "Some scumsucker ran toward Yints and wouldn't stop, so Matt and Jim fired at him." I continue, "Now, can you get me out from under this pile?" Jack orders, "Maria, you and Jennifer have to be patient. It looks like Matt and Jim took the brunt of the blast, and we're not moving them until the doctors get here." Then Glenn arrives and orders, "Present, Masha, at the blast site." I arrive at the site of the blast. Note that Matt, Jim, Jennifer, and Maria are in a large heap on the ground. My Jack has taken command. Then Glenn arrives, and a slight confrontation ensues between him and Jack. I prepare to intervene when I notice someone in the crowd who catches my attention. I am able to attract Liz's attention, so she approaches me, and I request, "Ms. Morgan, please take my son back into the tunnels." She questions, "Masha, is there something I need to know?" I smile at her and reply, "If I were you, I would also request Bernie's company." Liz gives me a look which confirms she understands the situation. I hand Ivan to her and instruct him, "Be a good boy and go with Ms. Morgan. Mama is going to be busy." He hugs Ms. Morgan and says, "Mama, be careful. Bad men here." I am amazed that he deduced the gravity of our situation. Once they are safely away, I advance toward my target. Present, Glenn, at the blast site. One of the men tells me that a suicide bomber tried to kill Jennifer, so I hightail it to the blast site. I get there, see a pile of men with Jennifer under the pile, and order, "Get those men off my daughter." Jack says, "Belay that command. I'm in charge here, and we're not moving the men until the doctor checks them and okays it." I bristle. "What the hell do you mean you're in charge?" Jack stands tall and states, "Jennifer told me I'm in command." I begin my rant. The day I take orders. Jennifer interrupts, "Daddy, please come close so I can talk to you." I bend down as Jennifer says, "Daddy, I did put Jack in command because he knows Ben better than any of us. I'm hoping you two can work effectively together." I'm flabbergasted. Then Todd runs up. "Present, Todd," at the blast site. I run up to the blast site, take one look at Matt and Jim and realize how lucky they were, and then sign. This is far from being over. Glenn yells, "What the hell are you talking about?" Jack questions, "Todd, what did you find out?" I sign. "The prisoner told me that there are more suicide bombers and that Jennifer is their main target." Glenn orders, "That does it, move those men off my daughter so I can take her out of here." Jack also orders, once again, "Belay that order. I'm in command here." "I don't care if she is your daughter, Glenn. We're not moving those men until the doctor clears them." A man ignores Jack's order and begins to move toward Matt and Jim. I notice something I don't like, run toward him, dive for his legs, knock him to the ground, and restrain his arms in a full Nelson. Glenn complains, "What the hell did you do that for?" He's fighting me like hell, so I slam his face into the ground multiple times until he's unconscious. Then I roll off him, open up his jacket, and we're shocked with what we see. Present, Jack, at the blast site. Todd takes a man down, renders him unconscious, opens his jacket, and son of a bitch. We see 4 claymore mines strapped to his chest. If he had detonated those, it would have decimated whoever he was aimed toward. Todd restrains the man's arms and begins to disarm the claymore vest. I look at the crowd gathered around Matt, Jim, Jennifer, and Maria, lower my rifle, and order, "Everyone move back 20 paces, and that includes you, Glenn. Linus, help me cover this crowd. Now, I hope no one gets any strange ideas. If you move toward us, we will fire first and ask questions later." Linus raises his rifle, and everyone steps back. I hear some noise at the edge of the crowd, and someone says, "I'm the doctor, let me through." I order, "Doctor, we have possible suicide bombers in our midst. Walk in slowly with your coat totally open." I see his medical bag and state, "And leave your bag where it is until it can be examined." He complies, slowly approaches, and we hear, "Present, Matt and Jim, at the blast site." I swear, "Goddamn son of a bitch." I barely hear Jack, "Are you okay?" I continue, "Hell no, I'm not okay. That fake Marine son of a bitch blew us to hell." I begin to move, but here, "Don't move until I check you out." I complain, "I can barely hear you. Speak up." The man says, "I'm a doctor. Now lie still until I can assess your injuries." I wake the hell up, begin to sit up, and screw me, that hurts like hell. I yell, "Damn son of a bitch." I hear Matt, "Jim, are you okay?" I gripe, "Hell no, I'm not okay. Did we save Jens?" I sort of hear a voice below me, "Hell yes, you guys saved me. But now you're crushing the hell out of my poor body." Another voice adds, "Me too." I figure out that we're lying on Jens and Maria and laugh. "Hell, Matt, this is the first time I've been on 2 women at once. Does this qualify as a threesome?" Matt complains, "Hell, you'd better not mention this to Molly, or she will kick my butt." I tease, "Damn, she's a real ball and chain." Someone says, "Matt, you're stable, and we're going to move you to a stretcher." Then I hear, "I'm a doctor, and I'm going to check you over." The doctor swears, which is never a good thing. Damn it, we have some problems. I begin to question what's going on, but then things grow dark. Present, Masha, at the blast site. I slowly advance upon my intended target, reach into my purse, and prepare a syringe. This will be my most dangerous mission, and if I make one minor mistake, it will cost me and many others our lives. I carefully observe my target, realize there is one huge problem I will need to solve, but I do need to complete this mission. I pull the syringe out of my purse, jam it into the base of his neck, and inject the poison deep into his brain stem. Its effects are instantaneous, so he begins to crumple to the ground. I wrap my hand around his hand and call, "Jack, I need assistance immediately." Present, Jack, at the blast site. "Son of a bitch, Masha is here somewhere and needs me, but finding here in this crowd is going to be a problem because my hearing isn't what it used to be." I shout a reply, "Masha, keep talking so I can locate you." She states, "Jack, I have eliminated another suicide bomber, but this man has a dead man switch in his hand." I swear, when it rains it pours. I begin to work my way toward her voice when I see something that makes my blood run cold. Present, Alexei, Mira, and Ira, at the cabin. We make excellent time in this extremely nice vehicle. We are on the dirt road to the cabin, and I question, "My sisters, might it be possible for me to retain this vehicle?" Mira replies, "Alexei, I do not see any reason why you could not keep this vehicle." Ira adds with a chuckle, it is not like the previous owner requires it any longer. We pull past the gate and see many vehicles. Ira dryly remarks, I would say that the Marines have arrived. Mira adds, yes, it would appear that we might not be needed all the after. I correct, you mean after all. Then I add a question, what is that large throng of people doing? My sisters simultaneously command, Alexei, halt the vehicle and prepare for battle. I begin to halt the vehicle, but my sisters have already exfiltrated. Once it stops, I also exfiltrate and rejoin them. I am shocked at what they both say. Present, Zarika, in the medical plane. I watch a large group of people and hear someone say, Jennifer Donaldson has been injured and might die. I decide that I must rush to Yasmin and tell her the news. I reach the medical aircraft and run to Yasmin's bed. She is asleep, so I carefully wake her. She smiles at me and I say, Yasmin, the Jennifer lady has been injured and might die. Yasmin says, Zarika, if that was to happen, then it would free our bin. We begin to celebrate when a new lady walks up and asks, I am looking for a Zarika and Yasmin Blaine. I smile at the lady and reply, I am Zarika and this is Yasmin. What she tells us next frightens both of us. Present, Ben, on the road. Yeah, the scumsuckers changed tactics. Instead of waiting for a truck to enter their trap, they were now chasing the last vehicle in the convoy trying to damage it so they could stop it and take the cargo. I climbed into the bed of the truck, but Wojciech thought I wanted to play. I complained, not now, damn it. I set my rifle on top of the cab and began firing at the vehicles chasing the last truck in the convoy. Gus did a hell of a job holding his truck still, but it still took me several shots to take out the tires on the chase vehicles. It was unfortunate the drivers didn't lose control and crash, but they did manage a controlled stop. With their chase ended, we and the whole damn convoy stopped. I jumped out of the bed of the truck and opened my door while Gus said, damn, that was some fine shooting. I complained, like hell. It took me way too many shots to take out the tires. We continued to watch, and what happened next wasn't pretty. The truckers had their own sense of justice, and the scumsuckers in the pirate vehicles had crossed the line. When the truckers were done, they walked back toward us. One of them pointed and said, damn, it's him. I looked at Gus, jumped into my seat, and said, let's get the hell out of here. He floored it, and we were headed toward the border again. Present, Stacy and Samantha, on the road. I look at myself in the mirror and realize that I need to diet and exercise if I'm going to lose the weight I gained when I was preggers. I get dressed and fight the depression that's trying to creep in and overwhelm me. I sure hope Bill finds a shrink for me soon. I head outside and notice Samantha is already changed and is talking with Bill. I walk up and glumly say, okay, let's get going. Samantha smiles and says, okay, Bill, you jump in the truck while Stacy and I run. I give her a dirty look and demand, what's this all about? Are you insinuating I'm fat? Sam laughs, oh hell no. I'm the one that's fat, and I thought it would be a good idea if you kept me company. Bill agreed, I think it's a great idea. In fact, the whole team could stand some exercise. He orders everyone, other than today's assigned drivers, out of the trucks for morning PT. I'm amazed because the guys don't even grumble, plus they bring their weapons with them. I look around and ask, where are my rifle and pistols? Bill grins, now that's more like it. He walks up to my truck, hands me a Western belt with my pistols on it accompanied by the golden rifle Ben gave me. Sam says, gee, I guess I'm the only one without a gun. I correct her statement. Samantha, there are weapons, and we can certainly fix that problem. Bill, please get her some weapons. Wow, once again Stacy is so nice to me. Bill brings me a tactical-looking holster and helps fit it to my body. This is much better than what Mossad ever gave me. Then he hands me a rifle and questions, are you familiar with the operation of these weapons? I state, well, a pistol is a pistol, but I haven't used rifles very much. Stacy says, wrong answer. Drop and give me 5. I look at her and ask, what? Stacy clarifies, Samantha, not all pistols are the same, so you need training on this pistol. Now, every time you give me a wrong answer, you need to give me 5 push-ups. I grumble, I bet Ben never made you do this. Stacy laughs, yeah, you're right. I never got off that easy, so make it 10 push-ups. I begin to grumble, and Stacy interrupts, are you trying for 15? I drop to the ground, put my knees on the ground, do 1 and say, that's 1. Stacy interrupts, like hell that's 1. Those are girl push-ups and I want real push-ups. I think about grumbling more, but decide that Stacy will tell me to do 15, so I barely manage 10 minutes push-ups. Then I stand up and question, are you happy? Stacy smiles and says, actually I am. Now let's go over the operation of your pistol and rifle. Teaching Samantha reminds me of the time I spent with Ben and has put me in a great mood. I finish with the weapons training, then I order, okay, hold your rifle in high ready position and let's run. Samantha questions, what's high ready position? I remember how Ben took extra time showing me all the rifle-ready positions, so I instruct Samantha the way Ben instructed me. I finish as Samantha says, wow, Stacy, You know so much about guns, weapons. I smile and say, thanks to Ben. Now let's go for a little run. We take off at a slow trot, then I hear Patches and Bo complaining. I laugh and yell, don't worry you two. Your time is coming later today. It does feel good to be working out again. I can't wait until we find Ben and we can work out together again. While Stacy had a much different time with Ben than I did with the stupid Mossad. She actually learned things from them when I realize what they did and begin to swear, those scumsuckers. Stacy smiles and asks, let me guess, you must be thinking about the Mossad? I reply, that's right. I just figured out they really didn't teach me anything. They just used me. And the worst of all was my scumsucker polygamist ex-husband Frank. I was just a sex toy for him. Stacy questions, so, do you want to get even? I reply, hell yes I do. Stacy laughs and starts to tell me her plan. I like the hell out of it. Present, Byron, Tom, and Inga. It's raining hell on the narcotic lord. Hell's bells. I hate being outgunned. Usually Betsy is the biggest devil dog gun on the block, but not when the scumsuckers roll out an anti-aircraft gun. I order the other two snipers. You guys keep going. I have an idea. They keep running as I drop down in a good position, range the hell out of the things I saw, and switch magazines. I'm concerned that we can't reach Byron and the other snipers, but the team leader keeps us double timing toward the narcotic lord's compound. Then I hear the familiar crack of a 50 as it flies past, followed by an explosion. After the large explosion, the team leader signals for us to stop and drop, so we all do that. He questions, what the hell was that? Byron replies, I was just taking out a particularly annoying anti-aircraft gun. See you guys later, I have to move. Yeah, they might have had a bigger gun than Betsy, but they sure as hell didn't have better sense. They pulled the AA gun right next to the fuel tanks. So I switched to incendiary rounds, put one into the tanks, and that was it for the damn AA gun. The problem was the incendiary round left a flaming trail all the way back to my position, and now they were firing toward me with their little pop guns. So I reported in, and then caught up to the other snipers. We took new positions and gave them some more hell. The team leader signaled for us to follow, and we did. That is Tom, and I followed a short distance behind the others. I didn't trust this narcotic lord. He had someone in charge of his security who was very good, and I knew we would find more traps before we reached the compound. Flashback, Tatiana, at the hospital. The orderlies arrived again to help get Ben back into the bed. As we moved him, one of them remarked, what did he do to his arms? I looked at his wrists, which were a bloody, mangled mess, and realized that Ben didn't cut the restraints. He somehow tore through them. But those restraints were designed to securely hold the largest man, and I'd never heard of this before. I began to tend to the wounds on his arms, and the orderly asked, should we restrain him again? I was tempted, but I remembered how angry Ben was when I walked into the room after he escaped, and stated, no, we need to remove the restraints from his bed. We began to remove the restraints, and I noticed that the leg and waist restraints were not torn. They were simply opened, and that made me feel better. However, his wrists were a huge mess. I could not understand how a man could inflict that much pain upon their own body. I finished with his wrists, then looked at his hands and swore, They were filled with shards of the crushed baby monitor. This Ben of mine was a most mysterious man, and then I could not believe what he said. Flashback, Ben, at the hospital. I slowly awakened after Hard Ben took over and busted me out of the restraints and smashed the hell out of the baby monitor. I heard Tatiana as she swore, My ornery self decided to have some fun, so I said, don't tell me you're going to kiss me with that mouth. Tatiana replied, Ben, you are awake. What do you mean about kissing with that mouth? I guess the joke didn't translate well, so I countered, does your mother know you swear like a Russian sailor? I saw some fire in her eyes as she countered, Ben, I do not swear like a sailor. I laughed. Yeah, a Russian sailor might not have any chance against you. She threatened, Ben, if you do not take that back, then we will never have coitus again. I was suddenly tired of this bullshit and declared, Tatiana, I'm tired of your threats and your lame punishments. You're fired as my nurse, now get the hell out of my room. She questioned, Ben, you can't be serious. I laughed, hell yes. I'm as serious as a heart attack. You're fired, so get your butt out of my room. She sputtered, but. I ordered. You heard me. Get the hell out of here. She began to cry and ran out of the room. Yes, it was about time I put her in her place. Now I could rest in peace. Flashback, Mira, Ira, Safia, and Naomi, in Israel. After exposing the doctor as a charlatan, and after Ira's katana assisted his haste of post-departure from the domicile, I checked his medical bag. I retrieved what I was looking for and said, Safia, I would like for you to take this pill. It is risperidone, and I would like to observe how you react to the medicine. She loudly brayed. Now Mira is trying to kill me. I questioned, little one. You know that is not true, so why do you continue with such falsehoods? She explained with warped logic. Mira, if you give me that pill, I will be a different person. Those pills will kill the person that's inside of me. I finally comprehended Safia's statement and asked, Safia, it is obvious you have some mental problems which we need to address. Safia interrupted and pleaded, but not with narcotics. Mira, is there anything else that we can try? I thought for a moment and answered, Safia, I currently do not have an answer for that question. Therefore, we will not medicate you until I can further research your request. Safia loquaciously brayed, Mira, would you please release me from these cruel restraints? Naomi vigorously shook her head. I contemplated my response and stated, Safia, your past history indicates that you are a risk of flight. Furthermore, the deceptive tactics you employed which caused us to injure the behemoth man prove that at this juncture you are not to be trusted. Logic dictates that you would use this paramount opportunity to escape. I will, however, after serious consultation with my sister, determine a methodology to restrain you which is less cumbersome. Now, I must attend to your sister. I motioned to Naomi, and we left the room. Flashback, Masha, at the apartment. I was teasing Jack with my bare foot as we ate dinner. It was most enjoyable, and I looked forward to the promise of romantic behavior later in the evening. There was a frantic knock on the door that scared me so badly I dropped my wine glass right into my lap. With embarrassment I swore, tea. I then began to wipe the wine off my robe. Jack jumped up, grabbed his rifle, walked to the side of the door and questioned, Who is it? We were shocked when we heard. Flashback, Jens at home. Daddy got enough food to choke 4 horses, then Mother set my plate in front of me. It had 3 little shrimp on it, 2 or 3 small spoonfuls of green bean casserole. You know, the tasty one with the French fried onions on the top, and the rest of the plate was filled with lettuce without dressing. I took one look at it and complained, Mother, what the heck is this? She smiled and said, Jennifer, it's your favorite food. I poked at the stupid lettuce with my fork and continued my complaints. Mother, lettuce without ranch dressing is not my favorite food, and why do I only have a minuscule amount of shrimp and green bean casserole? Mother actually smiled as she answered, Why, Jennifer, you know that since you're now a prima ballerina you have to watch your weight. I sarcastically replied. Flashback, Glenn, at home. Hell, I thought I dodged the bullet when Jennifer came downstairs with the dress on. She did look good in dresses, but hated wearing them. However, Evelyn came unglued when Jennifer sarcastically asked, Are you saying I'm fat? Evelyn looked at me and whined, Glenn, I've tried my best, but just look at how ungrateful your daughter is. She snatched the plate from in front of Jennifer and ran into the kitchen. I glared at Jennifer and she declared, That's right, Daddy. I'm an ungrateful little biatch. She then ran up to her room. I looked at the kitchen, shifted my stare to the stairway, studied at my plate, and started to eat. Hey, I was going to finally enjoy a meal in peace. Flashback, Todd, on the island. Where the hell was I? Oh yeah, I was shot in the neck with a dart while exploring the camp. But now, as my vision cleared, it looked like I was in some sort of cave. I viewed my surroundings, then realized that my arm was connected to another coconut along with another bag of something. I stood up to look at the bag and determined my legs were in shackles and the damn shackles were attached to the floor. I sat back down, reached for my pack, but it was gone. In fact, everything, my pistol, my knife, yes, everything, was gone. Hell, I was going to use things in my pack to pick the lock on the shackles so I could explore this cave. As my vision cleared some more, I could tell that someone, probably the person that helped me on the beach, and the person that kept shooting me with the damn sleeping darts, lived here. There was a damn comfortable looking bed, some sort of fire pit with a cooking tripod over it. But I wondered why the person didn't just stay at the compound I'd seen earlier. Then it hit me. They had been a prisoner at the compound, so of course they wouldn't stay there. I heard a noise, turned, and couldn't believe what I saw. Flashback, Alexei at home. Yes, it was as I expected. I was just an experiment to my parents. Yes, I say parents, because within the folder were the records that I was taken by cesarean section from my dead mother and given as a gift to my parents, which nurtured me through some difficult times brought about because of my traumatic early delivery. I leaned back in the chair and contemplated the retrieved information. Then I heard a noise as my father entered the room. He looked at me and said, Son, I see you have finally uncovered the truth. Do you have any questions? I smiled at him and inquired, Would you tell me who my birth mother was? He replied, Sorry, my son, but that I cannot do. If the authorities even discovered we exposed the truth to you, they would remove you from our home. I questioned, So why did you reveal the truth to me? He answered, We knew that you would discover it by yourself one day, and we were tired of concealing the facts from you. It made perfect sense, so I promised, Father, I will not expose this truth to anyone else. However, why have you performed the various experiments on me? He answered, Son, you are a gift and have the potential of becoming much more than most people. We are making sure you fulfill that potential. I smiled and said, I think that I will work on the cryptex you presented me. He smiled back and said, son, I knew you would react logically to this information. Do not stay up too late. He left. I closed down my parents' computer and decided that I would never reveal to them that they were only my parents. They had provided me a good home with many benefits, and I would use all those benefits to better myself. I would also endeavor to determine if I had any other living relatives. I started to work on the cryptex. Flashback. Yince at home. After my fight with frickin' Evelyn, I ran to my room, pulled off the stupid dress I was wearing, threw it and all the other dresses in my closet on the floor, and stomped on them. Then I decided more drastic measures were needed. But on second thought, perhaps what I did wasn't so wise. Flashback. Glenn at home. What the hell was going on? It interrupted my great dinner. Flashback. Ben at the hospital. Shit. I had a hell of a problem. I fired Tatiana before I got the information for the damn wedding planner from her, and I wanted to give Jack and Masha the wedding of the century. I briefly thought about calling Tatiana, but that dog sure as hell didn't hunt, so I decided to see if this damn hospital tracked phone calls. I called up the switchboard and asked in my nicest Russian. Some phone calls were made from this room. Do you possibly know the number that was called? She replied in a snotty voice, this is Russia. Of course we have the phone number. I questioned, well, can you give the number to me? She answered no. I got frustrated and asked, well, how about if you connect me to the number? She really pissed me off when she said, no, I will not do that either. It is outside of protocol. Now goodbye and stop wasting my time. Well, screw this bullshit. If she wanted to be a pain in the butt, I could be the biggest pain in the butt in the world. I pressed my call button, but no one came. I pressed it again, but still no one came, and I realized another mistake. I had fired Tatiana before I hired a new private nurse. I saw my salvation in the form of a wheelchair that Tatiana had used to bring me into the room. Now to work my way to it. I knew better than to try to stand again, so I once again used my old friend, the bedside table. I adjusted it to the perfect height, crawled on top, then lowered it until I could use my hands to pull myself toward the wheelchair. I reached the wheelchair, briefly thought about just using the bedside table as my means of transportation, but I didn't like the fact I couldn't see where I was going very well. I easily worked my way into the chair, rolled toward the door when son of a bitch. Flashback. Masha, Jack, and Tatiana at the apartment. I was looking forward to some intimate times with Jack until someone loudly banged on the door. Jack assumed a defensive position by the door and asked, who is it? He said that in English, so I wasn't sure the person that banged on the door would understand until I heard a very upset voice. It is Tatiana. I jumped up from the table, ran to the door, threw it open, and was amazed when I saw a totally disheveled Tatiana. She flew into my arms and began to cry. I told Masha through my sobbing, Masha. Ben fired me as his nurse. An immediately suspicious Masha questioned, Tatiana, what did you do? I blubbered, it is a long story. Masha gave me a disbelieving look and declared, Tatiana, it can't be that long. I explained the whole mess to her, ending with how I threatened to withhold coitus from Ben. Masha shook her head and responded, Tatiana, with men like Ben and Jack, you can never use coercion of the stick or other threats. They will always accept the challenge. I cried, then what should I do? Masha thought for a moment, then said, we need to ask Jack. He is Ben's closest friend and will know. Jack was occupied, watching a silly cartoon, Beavis and Butthead. At least he seemed to laugh at the right moments. For a second, I wondered if he had picked up some Russian, but then I realized the humor was so basic that even someone who didn't speak the language could follow along. Suddenly, a loud commotion interrupted my thoughts. What now? I had been looking forward to spending some time with Masha later, especially after she had been playfully teasing me under the table. But now, Tatiana had burst in, crying uncontrollably and speaking rapid Russian. From experience, I knew that when emotions ran this high, things were bound to take a while. Any hope of a quiet evening was gone. So, I switched on the TV, went back to the table, and focused on finishing the incredible meal Masha had made. I had no idea what it was, she had told me, but I didn't understand a word of Russian, but it was absolutely delicious. Engrossed in the show, I realized that Beavis and Butthead in Russian actually made more sense than when I had watched it in English. Then, just as I was settling in, Masha spoke. I said, Jack, we have a problem. Jack emerged from his TV-induced stupor and questioned, Masha, what's wrong? I looked at Tatiana and she questioned in Russian, Masha, do I have to tell him everything? I replied, if you desire his assistance, you must. Besides, he already knows all about it. In the interim, Jack had become absorbed again in the idiotic show. I interrupted, Jack, Tatiana has some problems with Ben. Jack laughed, hell, join the club. I gave Jack the look, and Tatiana related everything to him. She finished. Jack laughed and exclaimed, Hell, don't you know anything about Ben? A direct challenge is the worst. We didn't hear anything else because a special report on the TV interrupted. Tatiana began to cry and I ordered, "Come on, we need to change and get to the hospital." Flashback, AITA, in Israel. Once again, Masha sent us an insipid, idiotic email and even included a threat. An illegitimate male offspring of a female Saluki. She answered the hormone conundrum. I speculated that Mira and I were the only ones who did not comprehend the hormone conundrum. I decided I must find the master of all conundrums, so I began to search the internet. Finally, I came up with the perfect one for Masha, so I composed my email to her. Masha, your threats are almost as annoying as your person and remind me of a braying shit, and I mean donkey. We will not exfiltrate Israel until I have had my dessert of just so desist with your bloviation immediately, or I will bitch slap and wreak havoc upon your butt. Since you easily solved the first conundrum, provide the solution to this one. What occurs once in a minute, twice in a moment, and never in 1,000 years? I grinned as I transmitted the communication. Flashback, Mira and Naomi, in Israel. I escorted Naomi into an adjacent room and ordered, "Let me examine your articulatio genus." Naomi replied, "You mean my knees? Why do you insist on using the Latin terms for body parts?" I replied, "Our terminology is consistent with the medical books which we used for training." I examined both of Naomi's articulatio genus and remarked, "Many of the injuries are very deep. Several appear to have reached your patella. It was not wise to maintain your grasp of the cart of food." Naomi stated, "I was not going to let my sister further injure my master." I prepared a syringe of lidocaine and Naomi questioned, "Are you going to give me an injection?" I answered, "Yes, but this is not the treatment injection. This is a local anesthetic for minor surgery. The debridement of your injuries will not be without pain." I manipulated the syringe, induced the fluid across her articulatio genus, and watched as she winced in pain. While we waited for the anesthetic to function, I prepared a second syringe of penicillin and questioned, "Do you have any allergies to narcotics?" Naomi answered, "Not that I am aware of." I stated, "This needs to be injected into your ass, and I do not mean donkey." She laughed, bent over, and exposed her butt. I wiped it with an alcohol swab, and she jumped when I inserted the needle and swore, "That hurts like a son of a bitch." I requested, "Please explain this euphemism." She answered, "It is either an expression of being upset like, damn, or an insult. It actually means the male offspring of a female dog." I smiled and stated, "Ah, that is a good term to use. We frequently utilize male offspring of a female Saluki. Now let me treat your articulatio genus." Even though I was gentle and had the forethought to use anesthetic, the debridement still caused Naomi pain. I finished, dressed her injured knees with antibiotic cream and Telfa pads, and ordered, "We will need to change these pads 3 times daily or when they become soiled." I leaned back, but Naomi unfortunately reminded me, "Now we need to treat my master." I exclaimed, "Son of a bitch. I forgot about him." Naomi laughed and commented, "That was excellent usage of that euphemism, but why do you resent working on him?" I replied, "The alimentary canal holds no fascination for me." We headed into her master's bedroom, and we heard him scream, "Help me." We translocated into the bathing domicile. He stood up in the tub of bath and complained, "Help me." Naomi questioned, "Master, what is wrong?" He pointed to his butt, and I don't mean donkey, and stated, "There is something alive in there." Naomi ordered, "Mira, prepare your instruments. I will dry my master and bring him to the bed." I departed to the bed, prepared many instruments, and contemplated how I could remove the vision of his naked behemoth mass from my mind. Dear listeners, next part of the story will be released soon. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.